Hey guys, thanks for coming. My name is Greg Swan. As you file in, if you get a chance to snap a picture of the QR code, which I don't even know how to use those things, but you do, and it's a survey that we send back, it's anonymous, if we can get your kind of awareness of fentanyl before we show you our presentation, and then we'll ask for it after. This is the first of two announcements on this.
Hey guys, as you sit down, make sure you do not have an empty seat between you because we are going to max out every single seat. So especially if you're in the middle section and you have an empty seat you're not saving, please make sure you close those gaps.
Welcome, guys. We're getting ready to start. As we do, if you have a camera, please take a picture and take the pre-survey. And then after, we're going to take a post-survey and see if you guys picked up any information. It's very, very helpful. It's anonymous, but we'd love your participation. It just involves checking off some boxes. Thank you so much.
All right guys, let me have your attention please. So find a seat quickly and let me have your attention. That means quit talking. Thank you. Okay, so if you have not taken the survey yet, I know some of you did in your 5th period class yesterday. Please, the one time to use your phone in the next hour is to take a picture of that QR code. This is a pre-survey just to test your knowledge of fentanyl, and then there will be a brief survey afterwards that helps the presenters figure out what kind of impact they have had on making you more aware of the risks of fentanyl. Again, guys, if you are just coming in, please find an empty seat and close those gaps. We also have some seats along the top on both sides if we need overflow. And I am going to pitch it to Greg. Please give him your undivided attention. Here we go.
Thanks, Luke. You guys got a great principal. My name is Gregory Swan. I'm from Fentanyl Fathers, a group of bereaved parents who've lost their kids to an overdose or fentanyl poisoning. And I told Luke before I got on stage here, my joke about principals was nobody hates high school, it's just the principal of the thing. But that's not funny because he's the greatest guy. In fact, Alaska's given me a great warm welcome and I so appreciate it. We're gonna start with a little 40-second attention-getting video, and then we're gonna go into the movie.
Unresponsive at this time. ETA about 2 minutes. Anything further?
My name is Dominic Tierno. Since I graduated high school in 2014, I've had the great honor of directing a number of documentary films about drugs and drug addiction. Our mission is to revolutionize drug education by telling real-life stories that motivate young people to make one of the most important decisions of their life, and that's the decision to not use drugs. 2020 was the worst year for drug overdose deaths that we have ever seen. In the beginning of summer in 2020, I came across this article. A 14-year-old kid from a town I grew up in had died from what appeared to be a drug overdose. He's a smart, funny guy who, like many kids, was struggling with some anxiety issues and decided that he would turn to drugs to see if he could help himself with that. What happened was he went and bought this pill, this Oxycontin pill, from a guy he had known because he thought that pill might ease the pain of what he was going through mentally. Well, he didn't know it, but that Oxycontin pill wasn't a real Oxycontin pill. It was a fake pill. It looked just like the pill that he wanted to try, but instead of Oxycontin, it was made with fentanyl, a synthetic opioid known to be 50 to 100 times the strength of morphine. That one pill he took that night killed him almost instantly. and his mom found him dead in his bedroom the next morning. Before I can even finish that article, I'm scrolling through and I see another linked article. Not far away, around the same time, another 14-year-old dead from fentanyl. So then I go back to Google and I type in fentanyl deaths. I hit search, and then it all made sense. I saw another kid, and I saw high school students, college students, young adults, all recent, all over the country, all dead from fentanyl. And so I'm looking at that and I'm saying, these aren't just normal overdose deaths. These people think they're taking one drug, and turns out they're being killed. Why have we not heard about this?
It's a drug 50 times more potent than heroin, and doctors say just touching it can send you to the emergency room. We're talking about the synthetic opioid fentanyl.
The first time I heard about fentanyl was my sister busting in my house being like, don't touch anything in his room, it's fentanyl. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I have no idea what's going on right now. So most people haven't heard of this because we haven't been talking about it. Back in 2013, when it first started showing up, only about 3% of drug users were dying from it. Now we're looking at over 50% of drug deaths being attributed to fentanyl. If Alexander could have got a lesson, I wish he knew about fentanyl. I wish he understood that fentanyl poisoning is real, and that every time you try something, you're playing with your life. It is pill roulette every time you try it. As a mom of a kid that was just trying to experiment, that's where it is. As a mom of a kid that died just wanting to experiment, I wish I could just shake you and tell you and make it real for you. But I don't know how to do that. I won't be there when you're faced with these decisions. I know that if he knew the effects of his passing, it would crush him. He never intended for me to find him on his bedroom floor. He never intended for his dad to administer CPR, trying to save his life while we were waiting for the paramedics. Even his 12-year-old sister wanted to run in there and try to help do CPR, but I held her back. Alex didn't intend for me to see him wheeled away on a stretcher and put into an ambulance. Alex had no intentions of me seeing him lying on a stainless steel table covered with a sheet with only his head showing. Alex had no intentions of me knowing what it felt like to kiss his face for the last time. The images that I'm left with of that day replay in my mind on a regular basis. Please do not put your family through this. And please, 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 I beg of you, learn about fentanyl now. Don't wait until your best friend has died, or a brother or your sister. Learn about it now so you can help your friends. You can tell them, you can warn them. You can be a very important part of saving lives.
This would be how much cocaine somebody would have to ingest to kill them. This is the approximate number of prescription pills one would have to ingest to kill them. This is the amount of heroin the average person would have to ingest to kill them. Fentanyl. You're gonna have to bring that camera up here real close to see it. This much fentanyl would kill you and I if we split it. They put fentanyl in cocaine. They put fentanyl in heroin. They put fentanyl, as we already know and talked about, into counterfeit pills. It's odorless, it's tasteless, you don't know it's there. And when you find out it's there, it's too late. You won't even know it. You'll be dead. 2,500 people would be killed by that amount of fentanyl. Does that sound like a drug to you? Does that sound more like a poison? I was a police officer for 31 years, and during my time in narcotics, I'd never heard of fentanyl. In homicide, I saw many, many tragic things. I saw people that were killed by shootings, stabbings, beatings. Nothing that I saw at that particular time would have ever prepared me to see Jessica. I was at work. I got a telephone call from my wife, Cherie. She was frantic, uncontrollable, screaming into the phone about Jessica. And I knew something had happened. Jessica lived with her boyfriend, Nicholas, and a stupid decision in which they ordered and had some cocaine delivered to them, to their house, resulted in them ingesting it. And my daughter, at that particular time, became forever 29 years of age. Jessica didn't want to die. She has a beautiful daughter, Alara, who is now with Cherie and I, and we are raising. And she had everything to live for. Jessica knew about fentanyl, you know, from talking about this issue after she died with her friends. I discovered that Jessica had a friend that had even died a couple of weeks prior to her death. And Jessica had spoken to her friends about being afraid. Well, if you knew about it, why would you even risk it, sweetheart? You knew it. Why did you make that bad decision? Who knows? Those are things that you'll never answer. We're just trying to prevent it from happening to somebody else.
Dealers are using social media to show off what they've got, infiltrating feeds of ever younger teens curious about this flashy lifestyle. With more addicts and overdoses by the day, they've got drivers on demand delivering any drug to your door 24/7.
Social media app has changed the game when it comes to narcotics. Fentanyl's all over the place, and just massive amounts of it. And some of them are going to fall trap to that.
4 years ago, DEA in Arizona seized 0 fentanyl. This last year, we seized enough fentanyl to kill 70 million people. You're playing Russian roulette out there when you're taking these pills and you're buying this stuff off the street.
Social media has completely changed the landscape of the drug trade. Most people start by searching for what they think are prescription medications, and drug dealers respond saying that's what they have. But what you have to be careful about is what you're asking for and what you get can be two different things. And if you're buying this stuff from somebody online, their bottom line is they're just looking to make a quick buck. They don't have your best interest in mind. They'll tell you whatever you want to hear. Unless you're getting these drugs from your doctor or a licensed pharmacy in a bottle that has your name on it, you may as well assume these drugs are fake. You're not getting the real thing. Fentanyl's literally taken over the drug market. It's in everything. It's in meth, it's in cocaine. Obviously the counterfeit pills that are out there. We're starting to see it showing up now in marijuana. The people who make this stuff, who are putting the fentanyl in everything, they have one goal: to get you hooked. Fentanyl is highly, highly addictive. They're gonna trick you into thinking you're getting something you're not, to take you down that rabbit hole, to get you hooked on fentanyl and have you become an addict. Because to them, you're a customer, and you'll be a returning customer at that point. One of those times, you're gonna get enough fentanyl to kill you. Alex was in her bedroom at night, getting ready for bed. She went on social media in search of oxycodone. It wasn't hard for her to find a drug dealer, and she had what she thought was oxycodone delivered to our house. One pill had enough fentanyl to kill 5 people. My daughter took half of this pill and died instantly. In an instant, my life was changed forever. My last memory of my daughter is of her being wheeled out on a gurney. I saw my daughter brought into this world and I saw her leave this world. I have 4 daughters and a beautiful wife. Every time we take a family picture, I don't see who's there, I see who's missing.
It was March 31st, and that evening was one of the most special evenings we had had in a long time. I told him to come downstairs, that I wanted to hug him. I don't know why. And came down the stairs and he hugged me and he said, "Dad, I'm so sorry for all the things that I had put you through in the past." And I said, "Don't worry about it, Daniel. You're just a kid and you're just learning, but you're going places. You got a great future coming ahead of you. I'm just so proud of you. You have no idea." All right, Dad, good night. Love you. Good night, son. I love you too. See you tomorrow morning. Next day, about 8 o'clock in the morning, when I walked into his room, he was in a lying position facing up against the headboard with his hands over his chest. They carried him down the stairs and put him on the first floor and started doing chest compressions. And then they took him to Los Angeles Children's Hospital where we were put in a waiting room. And later on that evening, a team of doctors came in. And they said, "Your boy is just a shell of a boy that he was before. He's not coming back." My only child. I couldn't protect them. I couldn't save his life. I couldn't save my son, Daniel. My son is gone. It wasn't supposed to be this way. He was supposed to graduate from high school this year. If you love yourself, if you respect yourself, if you love life, you have a choice. Because it is between life or death. This is no joke. You can and will die. How do I know this? I can tell you that I've met thousands upon thousands upon thousands of parents nationwide. I wish somebody had sat me down and had this talk with me about what fentanyl does to people. I didn't get that chance. You do.
You know, there's always been one main problem with the films that we make, and it's the reason why we try to keep them as real and as relatable as possible. People just so commonly think that it will not happen to them. I'm talking about great people, nice people, cool people, intelligent people with big plans for the future, big potential. Gone because of one choice they didn't know would end their life. Fentanyl is coming for anyone and everyone. So the most important message that I can give to kids, to teens, young adults, anybody, is the same old message we've heard time and time again. And that's to really get serious about not even trying a drug. You see, back when we first started, I was telling kids not to use drugs because you might get hooked, you might get addicted. Now there's not even time for that. Now it's don't try a drug because you might actually not wake up tomorrow. You might actually not get another chance. One choice is all it takes. If you don't believe that, I guarantee you, at this point, there was someone very similar to you who wished they could be here right now to look into the camera and look into your eyes and say, "Don't do it. Please don't do it. Please, I wish I wouldn't have done it. Don't do it. Don't risk your life." So my question for you is, are you going to listen? Or will it be your family and your friends holding your picture, wishing they could have been there to tell you?
This is my son, Alexander. He died at 14 years old from fentanyl poisoning.
This is our daughter, Jessica. She was 29 years old when she was killed by fentanyl.
This is my daughter, Alex. She was murdered at 20 years old by a drug dealer who sold her a counterfeit pill made of fentanyl.
This is my son, Daniel Joseph Puerta Johnson, killed at the age of 16 by illicit fentanyl.
This is my son.
Hi. Sorry about that. My name's Sandy Snodgrass. My son's Bruce. So the first thing I want to talk about is you guys. And I know a lot of you are in your classroom, so I won't be able to see you raise your hand. But I'd like, if you're willing, people in the classrooms and the people in the auditorium right now, if you have been affected by fentanyl, would you please raise your hand? So a lot of hands are going up. If you have lost a family member or a loved one, please keep your hands up. So it's here at South. I can see you. I want your peers to see you. We need to take care of each other here in Anchorage and in South in particular. You see your peers, your teachers see you with your hands up. Please reach out, get help. If you're someone that's currently using substances, please, please see and hear this presentation today. Seek help. My son was 22 years old when he was poisoned by 100% fentanyl in Anchorage, Alaska, October 26, 2021. He died where he stood, and his body wasn't recovered for 2 days out behind the Wells Fargo on Boniface and DeBar. We couldn't find him. I cannot tell you the destruction that it's wreaked in our family, the destruction that it's wreaked in hundreds of thousands of families around the country, 300,000 bereaved parents in just the last year alone. Please, please hear us today. Bruce was an Alaskan boy. He was born here. He was a risk taker. I see you guys, and I know you. I see Bruce in you. He was a free solo rock climber. He worked at the rock gym. He was a guitar player. He was, you know, everything that we're supposed to be in Alaska. He was that. But he was bulletproof, and he started experimenting with drugs and alcohol when he was young. Luckily, Greg, or we lost her. Luckily, he went into recovery, and I had him back for a couple of months. He went into residential treatment and outpatient treatment, which was great. We had him back for a couple of months, but he relapsed. Many young people relapse in early recovery. It's part, unfortunately, of some people's journey into recovery, into long-term recovery from substance abuse disorder. But because of fentanyl, that relapse was a death sentence, not just a stumbling block. It was his death sentence. So they talked about the Russian roulette in that. The Russian roulette game that you're playing, anyone plays with an illicit drug right now, 6 out of 10 of those rounds are going to contain live rounds. That's a pretty risky game. 6 out of 10 of those rounds are going to contain live rounds with enough fentanyl to kill you. I can't stop you from doing what you're going to do. Nobody could stop me from what I did. Nobody can stop a lot of the adults in this room from doing what we did. But this is a different cat. Fentanyl's a different cat. You can't mess around with it. So find some other way to piss your parents off. You know, I don't know what you're going to come up with, but don't do that. Just please don't do that. Don't use drugs to push boundaries. Find some other way. Please stay alive. Thank you. I'm going to introduce Stacy.
I'm sorry, I can't stand by a podium. My name is Stacy Eisert. Many of you may recognize my last name. My youngest son, Mr. Eisert, is one of your teachers here at South, but I know him as Chris. I also have a grandson who's a sophomore here at South. This is very emotional for me to talk to all of you today. I can't go on enough about how proud I am and how much I love Mr. Eisert, my son Chris. But I am here today to talk about my elder son, Jason. His picture's in the middle. Many of you may recognize him. I know the faculty does. He was a teacher here at South up until spring of 2020. Jason died March 10th, 2021, from fentanyl poisoning. Jason had a master's degree in English literature. He was a musician, a writer, a son, a brother, a father, and a teacher. He experienced some traumatic things in his life. He had 3 very good friends die, and I think he felt responsible for some of them. His first good friend died while out partying and drove home drunk and totaled his car. Jason was with him that night and endured survivor's guilt from not staying with him. His second friend, who owned a skateboard shop downtown, died in a tragic skateboarding accident and died from a head injury 8 years after Jason's first friend. While Jason was attending UAA, he and some friends were renting a house downtown Anchorage. He came home one night, there were police cars in an ambulance out in front of the house. One of his roommates had hung himself. Then Jason got his master's degree. He got his teaching degree. He taught for a couple of years over at West High, and then his dream job at South came open, and he moved over here to South. He got married in 2016, started having a family, had 2 young sons. You might say he had everything. He had it all, everything he always wanted. Jason was a very emotional person, very sensitive. But in order to deal with some of those emotions, he started taking drugs to try to make himself feel better. That was a bad choice, and he made many bad choices after that. I'm sorry, it's very emotional for me. Jason's marriage fell apart. Jason lost everything, even his beloved teaching job. This is what drugs can do. He became someone we didn't even recognize. He took a lot of his frustration out on his brother, Chris. Not fair to Chris. Chris has had to live with the backlash from that. And also the shame and stigma of your brother, who was a teacher next beside you, dying from an overdose of drugs and deadly dose of fentanyl. I can't tell you how it's affected our family. Words cannot describe. Our lives will never be the same. We endure a life sentence of pain and grief by the choices Jason made. Will we ever be whole again? I don't know. But if I have one message to give, if I can be the voice of Jason, he cared so much about his students, and I know if he had a lesson, one last lesson to teach you as your teacher, he would say, please, don't play that deadly game of Russian roulette. Don't even go near that gun, because it's going to affect not only your life, it's going to affect your family, your friends, your loved ones. Jason's sons will never know their daddy. Chris lost a brother, and Chris's sons lost their uncle. I see all these beautiful faces out there, and to those of you in your classrooms, I know there's beautiful faces in there as well. You have so much to live for. Please, don't do it. We love you. I can guarantee you've got family, friends, loved ones that care very deeply for you. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to all of us today. And just know that we care about you. And if any of you are struggling with even a family member or a friend that you're worried about, or yourself, find someone you trust to talk to. A teacher, a counselor, family member, anyone. Don't keep it inside. Don't make bad choices like Jason did. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. That was very powerful for me, for sure. My name is Gregory Swan. I co-founded Fentanyl Fathers along with Sandy Snodgrass and several other bereaved parents. I'm going to talk about Drew up here. I'm going to go through a deck, ask you to fill out a post survey, and then we'll land the plane. Pretty heavy stuff, really heavy stuff, but it gives us purpose as bereaved parents to talk to you about our guys, because that way their life can count for more, because you can get the memo. Now in prom season, if you see any of this stuff out there, you can be like, I don't think so. Our goal is that you walk out of here more likely to drink gasoline than take an unprescribed pill, because it is deadly, as has been said. I'm going to go through a couple facts here. I'll just mention a little bit about my son, Drew. He was a rock star. He was voted best looking in his high school. He's ridiculously smart. If you ever have fun games within your family where you might say something dumb or stupid, as your brothers, sisters, or parents, but probably not your parents, would call out, we have that all the time. And our joke in our family is, don't tell Drew, because he was like a genius, and he would never let you forget it. He was a musician. He was beautiful. He was an English major. He could really write tremendous prose. He wrote me a beautiful card for my 50th birthday, and when I reread it after he passed, I didn't think I was going to survive. I didn't think I'd be able to move on, but sometimes it takes EMDR therapy, which is a type of therapy for post-traumatic stress syndrome, just to be able to function. As an English major, I found out that Luke, your principal, is an English major, and I just want to say, Luke, thank you so much. South High, thank you so much for having us in here. It is an honor to be able to share this with you. This video that we're making of today is going to last for other parents around the country. There's 25,000 high schools out in the country. We want to hit all of them. All of them deserve a heads up like you got today. So I'll go through just a couple facts and get out of your hair so you can have lunch and all that. Fentanyl, 50 times more powerful than heroin. Assume every pill you purchase today will kill you. That's pretty much the message there. I think you're clear. Here's an interesting stat. The good news is for young people, they've stopped using drugs as much. It's gone down. You can see from 2001 down to 2021, that blue line represents drug use. Look at it just drop off. So that's fantastic. The bad news is the yellow line represents fentanyl and mortality. So deaths have gone way up, as you can see. Kind of a weird thing, but that's how deadly the drug is that we're faced with. Here again, in 2000, look at the age group, age 15 on up. But back in 2014, it was the yellow line represents fentanyl. It was just in the mix of other drugs. Now you can see it's blown up. It is literally taken over. And the age group is spiking very young. The CDC had to lower the death age for #1 killer of youth from 18 to 45 to 14 to 45. And as you can see, it's very heavy in the young age group. Don't be a headline. They're all over the place. We know Rebecca here, she's from Michigan. Rebecca Kiesling lost both of her sons on the same day, Caleb and Kyler Kiesling. And they delivered the news to her, and she said, both? Can you imagine? And it's just all over the place. This guy over here in California, Zachary, he was a track star, just had it going on, scholarship to college, athletic, academic, gone. Just made that one mistake, didn't know what he was dealing with. Here is just, Sandy kind of pointed this out. If you see this bar up here, that's 106,000 in 2021, 91,000 dead in 2020. And last year was 110,000. That's 300,000 dead, mostly kids, mostly from fentanyl. If I had a plan to wipe out the fighting youth of America, I don't think I could have pulled it off better than fentanyl. It seems like fentanyl is truly a weapon of mass destruction. This stuff is made overseas. It's sold, the precursors are sold in China, and they're sold to Western customers, and the cartels pump it up into the United States, and we have an oversupply. Every time you see a big bust of fentanyl, it's only 5%. 95% of the stuff is through and it's here, and that's why we're here to give you the heads up about it. Naloxone. We've got these naloxone packs here, and we've got some great people at Cloxado who make this from Hikma, and Narcan is a brand that's often talked about from a company called Emergent, but these are easy to use. Sandy saved someone's life recently in DC when she was visiting, making an impact for America's youth on fentanyl, and the guy was blue on the floor, and she was checking into her hotel room. She went up, she unloaded the naloxone into his nose, saved the guy's life. He was 20 years old. He's like, don't tell my boss. She's like, dude, you were dead. Just relax. These are some famous people that have died from fentanyl. You'll recognize Prince. He's on the cover of Rolling Stone this month. Tom Petty, you know, he was free falling, and Prince let the elevator break him down. Maybe you recognize some of these other people. They're all celebrities, fame, money. As Stacy said, Jason had it all. And I want to thank Jason's father, Gregory, his brother, Chris, Stacy, and the whole family for getting behind this and doing this for you guys. They really put themselves out there. It's pretty darn special. There's a good follow-up movie available on the movie you just saw. It's just the facts about fentanyl available online. You should know that if you're with a friend or you happen to be using yourself and your friend is overdosing, there's something called the Good Samaritan Law. You're scot-free. You will walk. You will not get in trouble. Make sure you get the medical help right away if you don't have a naloxone handy. And the nurse here, I met her, Susan, yesterday. She's teaching other people how to use naloxone, how to administer it, but it's actually more, you'll get in more trouble for not saying something. So that's the Good Samaritan Law. You're protected. You need to know you're safe. You do not have to worry about law enforcement getting after you. That was quite a movie, I must say. If you could take a quick snapshot of this while I wrap this up here. This is the post-survey for what you've learned about fentanyl. I got people back home. One of them is my son, Jack, who he lost his brother, and Drew, and we like to see if we've made a lift in terms of your awareness of fentanyl or an impact, because you can't manage what you can't measure. And if nobody learned anything, then we're not doing a good job here. I'll give 10 more seconds to take a picture, and I'll move on to the next slide. You see that slogan at the bottom, don't try, don't die. It's the shortened version of what we want to do. This is a guy named Jack McCarthy. He just died last year. He's the son of a guy who's in our group, James McCarthy. He came home, had he ordered it online. It was delivered to his house on Snapchat. He sat down by the coffee machine, fell over, slumped over, and that's how his mom found him in the morning, by the coffee machine. This is Q&A, so we're going to have some Q&A real quick here. These are typical questions that people might ask. You know, if it touches me, is it like anthrax? Will I die? Does it come in vapes? Will I get in trouble for reporting and overdosing? Tell me about the marijuana supply. I made the mistake yesterday. Please hold your applause, but I had a problem with pot when in high school and beyond, and that was my drug of choice. I accidentally said yesterday at West High I loved marijuana, and everybody started clapping and cheering for me, which is kind of ridiculous. Good for you guys keeping it down. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and say this with me. I'll say it first. I'll say, I'll never try, and then I'll turn it over to you. So I'll never die, then I'll turn it over to you from fentanyl, because there's a principle that if you say it with your mouth, and you already believe it, and I have no doubt you believe it now, that you will be saved. That's the ancient scriptures from Romans, but we're applying it to fentanyl. So I'm going to go right now, declare this. I'll never try, so I'll never die from fentanyl. Okay, thanks. You've been a great audience. We're going to turn it over to you guys for Q&A. Let us know, and I'll run the mic out to you. Or Or maybe you can shout it out. Anybody got any questions? Nobody has any questions. We were that thorough. Yes, sir. Test strips are available. It's a great question. You can determine how much fentanyl's in there. As Sandy said yesterday, it's like chocolate chip cookies. You don't know which part of the drug you're using has that chocolate chip that'll take you out. But the other thing is it really practical? You break up a pill, you're like, it's got no fentanyl in it. Darn, I just ruined my pill. You know, it does kind of defeats the purpose. I don't see them as hugely practical and having a huge scale. Other questions? Okay, yes, sir. Go ahead, just shout it. Ma'am, sorry. It's a great question. So when Sandy saved that person in D.C., she accidentally, she had the naloxone. You know, she kept saying to herself, get the naloxone, Sandy, get the naloxone, Sandy. And the first one she unloaded, it was pointed the wrong way, sprayed it right into her face. So she got the second one out and saved the guy with the second one. And the answer is no, it won't. There was an overdose recently in the ASD, and it ended up not being a Narcan or a naloxone needed drug because it wasn't fentanyl. It will not hurt you if you are not dying from it. But it does is, I'll get right to you. It goes into the receptors and rips off the opioids that are attaching to your receptors, and rather dramatically. Yes, sir. Fentanyl is a great question. My brother's a dentist, and it's used in a very controlled way for pain relief, sometimes during operations, administered in the right amounts. It's extremely potent, so only a medical person really can use it. We've got a fentanyl father. One of our guys is a dentist, and he goes, yeah, I'm just going to give you a little fentanyl. People are like, what? Get away from me. Because now it's out of the closet that it's really hurtful. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay, we got two. Yes, sir. How do you get naloxone? So we're going to, thanks for asking that, because I would have maybe forgotten. We're going to make it available free through the school nurse. I talked to Luke about it. We give it either to the principal or the school nurse, but there's going to be an endless supply. It'll be free. Most high schools, the goal is to have a dispensary right outside so you know where to be able to get it, take it home. I suggest you have it in your medicine cabinet, because you might be playing a video game with someone and say, hey, what's up with Jeff? He just kind of dozed off. And if he has any of those symptoms where he's like, well, not breathing, for example, it's a common thing in an overdose from fentanyl. You administer the naloxone. Yes, sir. Yeah, like why are they killing off their own users? Like killing, yeah, that's a lot of smart people ask that question. I'd like to know myself, but there's a multiple of several thousand more willing customers waiting. You can be a conspiracy theorist. I think it's biological warfare in America's youth. It's kind of ridiculous how much it kills. Many of the principals in their back conversations, and adults will say, gosh, when I was a kid, we experimented, but it didn't kill us. Here, it does, and it's because it's cheap, it's easily replicated. Did you want to add anything to that, Sandy?
So one of the reasons that they're using fentanyl, it is so highly addictive. Heroin, we already know, is highly addictive. Fentanyl is even more addictive. And people that I've talked to that are withdrawing from fentanyl say, I know I'm going to die if I don't get fentanyl. So they cannot stop. Highly addictive.
I was in a car accident. I broke my pelvis. I was put on Percocet, and when I had to go the withdrawal from that, I understood why people rob drugstores, because it's so tough. So I was able to land the plane a little bit more smoothly with working with my doctor. I think that's all we have time for. You guys have been the best. I went to a meeting yesterday. I'm in recovery. They gave me an Alaska coin, and I am so grateful for it. We got one more question. Last question. Yes, ma'am. Come on. How do the dealers get fentanyl? So the dealers are normally middlemen. So when a bereaved parent loses their kid, they trace it down through a Snapchat, and the guy just handed it off from the guy he got it from. But fentanyl is made with pill pressers, those are sold, and many of them are getting caught coming through into the United States. The precursors for fentanyl, the ingredients, are sent from China, and they're sent to cartels are mostly making them. It's not like the show Breaking Bad. It's a very organized, systematic. There's enough fentanyl right now in the United States to kill every man, woman, and child many, many, many times over. So you just got to be smart about it and wise about it, because it's here. And you guys are now officially graduated from fentanyl class. I highly doubt you'll ever go near it. Thank you for letting our kids' life matter for yours. Thank you very much.
So I wanted to follow up real quickly on the question, can we get a hold of Narcan, or do we have naloxone on the premises? I want everyone in this room and everyone watching in the classroom, and if you're out in the community and you're watching right now, to know that in every single one of our defibrillators, so that's the little cabinet on the wall with the paddles if someone were to experience cardiac arrest, there is a Narcan kit in every single one of those boxes. So there is one right outside of this door. There is one in our gymnasium, and then there are others located throughout the building. So you can always find a Narcan kit in those places if you were to need one, or if you were in any doubt and someone was unresponsive and you needed to treat them. It's fairly easy to use. Over 20 of our staff members were trained on how to use it yesterday. All administrators in the Anchorage School District were trained 2 weeks ago. So I do want you to know that that exists, and we will have plenty more of it. You can take one or two. It's a good idea to have it on you at all times, especially when you're not actively at school, if you were to run into a situation, because you really could save someone's life with it. And it's a fairly easy thing to use and completely harmless if the person doesn't happen to be on fentanyl at the time. So really consider picking it up. We'll get as much of it out there as we can. And thanks for your attention today. We are just a few minutes early, but we'll release you from this space. You've got a little bit of a passing period, and then we will get you into fifth period. Also, I just want to make you aware, if this landed really, really heavily with you and you just need a time to take a deep breath, our counselors will be available to talk to you, or if you just need a space to sit and kind of decompress and let this sit with you, then we're happy to make that opportunity available for you. Thanks for your attention. I'm going to release you now. Just quickly make your way out in the commons, take a deep breath,